Dear viewer, you're watching The Open Truth. This is ITV, a platform that gives you a lot of information to do with things that happened around the country. And today is our second episode, and indeed the second edition of the segment. And I'm very glad to be speaking to the man who was behind the report that opened the eye of everyone in this country. The report that dug into accounts that exposed individuals in regards to the money to the tune of $5 million. And this money was meant to serve the local communities. I'm talking about the 5% of the oil revenue to go to the communities. But this money never went into services. We learned of individuals who have actually, whose name actually surfaced in the report, and some institutions accomplice in the report. We'll get to know them. You certainly do know which institutions are this and who are these individuals. So let's hear from the man himself, who took his time to look into these records. It's my pleasure speaking to you, Stephen Wondu. Today you're speaking to us after a meeting of a committee under a project called the Peer. It's called the Peer Audit Project. And this is a project that draws a lot of bodies, including the Audit Chamber. I'm talking about the other institutions that today co-chaired with you a meeting to do with how best to bolster the Audit Chamber for you to be able to enhance transparency and accountability. And what has turned out in the meeting is because of their support that you're able to do the first report ever since the year began. And should we be expecting more?
You'll be expecting more. We have not been issuing reports. That doesn't mean that we have not been writing reports. We do have several reports in our drawers, which we hope to be able to issue in the months to come, given the fact that we now have a reconstituted parliament. We should be able to issue those reports in the near future.
How many do you expect? How many reports do you expect?
Oh, several reports. The ones which were signed years ago. How many of them? About 5 or 6 or 7 reports that were issued several years ago. But the interesting thing is that we have some reports which are hot, fresh. One of them was delivered to me yesterday. That is the report on the oil revenue sales, the crude oil sales for the year 2012 to 2019. I haven't signed it yet. I haven't even opened the box, but it is delivered in my office.
But you had the joy to receive it.
I have the joy to receive it, and it will be revealed. It will be opened and signed and made public.
Has it? You haven't actually gone in and read what it is all about.
I'm the one who wrote it.
You wrote it yourself.
It just came from the printers.
Right. Yeah. So what has that report to do with? Could it be the free oil service?
Keep your eyes open. Keep your ears open. This report was requisitioned specifically by His Excellency the President, and I think that the President should receive it before you. Don't you think?
That is his prerogative, surely, not mine.
Right, yeah.
I will be the consumer.
Yeah, you are one of the consumers.
Absolutely. Now, this is yet a report to come after the one you released first this year that actually exposed some financial misappropriation. Would you say misappropriation or
I didn't use that word misappropriation in my report. And I think this is a good opportunity for me to explain. That report was based on a directive from the Council of State. The Council of State is responsible for the supervision of the revenue that according to our law, is supposed to go to the communities and to go to the oil-producing states. That is their business. That is the business of the Council of State. So the Council of State said, Auditor General, come here. Look into those accounts. How much went in and how much went out and how much is left. It was a very straightforward assignment.
Did they feel it actually met their expectations?
I do not know about that. You have to ask them. But I did produce the figures. I did get the cooperation of the central bank. I did go into the books of the Ministry of Finance. And we did make a determination of how much money went into the 2% that was supposed to be for the states and how much went into the 3% account that was supposed to go to the communities. That one, we got the figures very clear. 25 million, I think it was, that was supposed to go to the states, and about 60 million that was supposed to go to the communities. So on that column, we were very clear. And then, where did it go? Now, and I think that is what excites you people.
Absolutely, that excites everyone.
That excites everyone.
Then in your report, it says much of the money has been given to unknown, for unknown reason. Why didn't you actually acquire? For what reason?
We had several findings. Some money did go to the states of the 2%. It was only about 5 million that went to parties other than the states. This is what we said in our report, that the money that was in the account for the state went to parties who were not identified in our law as the beneficiaries to that fund. Mark my words. And the same thing with the 3%. Money went to parties who were not mentioned by the law as recipients or potential recipients of that money. This is the language of the audit report. We are saying that the authorities in control of those accounts applied some of that resource for purposes other than the ones intended.
Right.
That is all what we are saying. We are saying money was given to somebody who is not mentioned by the law as a potential recipient. Remember that those accounts were controlled by the Ministry of Finance. They were not controlled by the states, and they were not controlled by the communities. So the Ministry of Finance puts money in the account, and the Ministry of Finance can take it and give it or use it the way they want. What we are telling the Council of State is that there were some people or some institutions that received the money, institutions which our law did not mention them as recipients.
Now, your report has come at a time when a number of changes took place in the ministry, change of ministers. Are these ministers to be questioned?
This governance is a relay. It is a relay like the Olympics. You run your turn and hand over the baton to the next athlete to run their turn. My responsibility, given and defined by the law, is to render a report. Render a report to other government entities like the Council of State, of the National Legislative Assembly, or the Executive. Once the Auditor General renders a report, the Auditor General has no further role in what happens next. Right. It is the other institutions to do their part. This one must be made very clear. We don't execute the law beyond submission of our findings and recommendations.
Right. Yeah. And did you find any challenges to do with cooperation from the institutions and individuals?
There were some documents that we would have liked to see that were not made available to us, and that matter is mentioned in the report as well.
So what does the law actually spell about if certain individuals or institutions do not comply with their call to actually audit them?
We report that fact. We report the fact that institution A and B did not cooperate with us.
Doesn't the law strengthen you to take any other steps?
No, not at the moment. The law doesn't.
And would you recommend that?
There is a law review, and there are also standard practices in the world. There are standards in the world. Audit offices do not do more than reporting. There are some jurisdictions, some countries, where the Auditor General has a court of their own, like in China. Like some 1 or 2 places in Europe, or even I think Angola. Okay? So, but most countries, especially in the English version, the British version of auditing that is applied in most of English-speaking African countries, auditors render reports. And they expect the representatives of people in parliament and the executive wing of government, the president and his ministers, they expect the prosecutor general, they expect the Ministry of Justice, they expect the courts, they expect the CID department, the prison department. You see, there are so many institutions who have different roles to play. You see, and that is what the law says. The Auditor General marks the audit, makes findings, and submits. In our case, submit to the President and to Parliament. Why? Because Parliament has its mandate of oversight. The executive wing of these other departments, like the Prosecutor General, and are all under the presidency. Right. Okay. That is why our law says so. So really, you don't have to look at further steps to be done by the National Audit Chamber. They go back and do more audit and leave the other organs of government to perform their mandate. Right. Yeah.
You're watching The Open Truth, and I'm speaking to the Auditor General, Stephen Wondu, and we are discussing about the recent development to do with the audit report that he released weeks ago in regards to oil money, to do with how much money has probably been given to the communities or been somewhere or diverted. So we're discussing about this, and you can share with us on this platform your comments, and we will be able to get back with much of your feedback. Now, some of the beneficiaries say they were unaware that some of this money belonged to the oil producing communities. What would you say?
I have no reason not to believe them. I even told the Council of State that if I went to the Ministry of Finance for my claim and the Ministry of Finance gives me a check to go to the Bank of South Sudan to draw, how am I to know that that check is not debiting the 3% or the 2%? I wouldn't know. So if the recipients who got checks from the ministry or were credited say that they were not aware, I give them the benefit of the doubt. I have no reason to doubt them. Right. How were they to know? So, really, quite frankly, that is why we never said that those recipients did something inappropriate. We say that they were not entitled. We didn't say that they stole it.
Right. And you're referring to the legality aspect?
At the law, yes.
Right.
You are given money from the Ministry of Finance. You ask the Ministry of Finance to give you your money, and the Ministry of Finance gives you the money of somebody else. How are you to know from the notes or from the check that it was from an account that belonged to Rwang administrative area? It was the money that belongs to UDT state government. You wouldn't know. You would be very happy to have received the money from finance, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You did actually earlier shared in one of your meetings with your partners regarding your intention intent to release more reports in the coming weeks. And one of them you talked about the pre-sales of oil, or basically to edit the oil sector from 2012 or 13 to date. So what should we expect in the report? And you said you wrote this report yourself.
No, it was not a petroleum or oil sector report. It was a directive of the president for us to find out how much oil we sold between this year and that year. Oil sales. Very, very specific.
Right. And so you have done it.
And so we went. It was a very tedious job. It was not easy.
Why was it tedious?
But it was very tedious because there are many parties involved in the process of oil sales. There are oil companies, there are the Ministry of Petroleum people, there are the Ministry of Finance people, there are the Central Bank of South Sudan people, and there is Sudan government somewhere in the middle. There are refineries in Khartoum. There are reservoirs in Bentiu. There are reservoirs. I mean, it was complicated.
Did you audit all this network?
We didn't go to all those places, but we did come to a reasonable finding that, in our opinion, the amount of oil we sold was in the region of about...
Can you give us the tip of the iceberg? Iceberg. Of the report.
I would like to request you to allow me to hold that until the people who asked me to do it have the information. I think it is fair.
Right. And one of those companies probably that should have actually been included in your report, we are yet to see, is the Nile Petroleum Corporation. And your presentation in an event, you said that you have not received any report from them. What happened?
I have not received. I haven't received any report.
Did they refuse to
we have attempted. Look, I have made efforts. We have written what we call engagement letters, and we haven't got the cooperation. And our mandate doesn't give us powers to do anything more than that. So what we do is what I've just done. I report that I never got.
Right.
Yeah. And it is up to you people in the media, in the societies, in the fourth estate, to go and ask those other people. You have asked me about my work. I've told you where I have succeeded and where I have not succeeded. One of the areas where I have not succeeded is I have not received financial statements for audit. Go and ask the other fellow.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, you expressed optimism in an event or meeting you held with your partners, that you have started to see a change in the environment that you think will really bolster your work to be able to deliver more than what we have seen in the past years. So, what do you think are the changes that you think?
The main thing is peace. Okay? If there is no fighting in the country, if there is peace in the country, people can move about their business. The next thing is the establishment of institutions and government. If there is no state government, but resources are sent to the state and there is no government, it makes life a bit more difficult, or a lot more difficult. So the fact that we now have executive, we have governors, and we have institutions across the country in the states and in the administrative areas creates an environment where we can follow resources.
Right.
The fact that we now have the National Legislative Assembly means that we now have a platform where to report. Now we have an institution that can take action, one I call consume our product. They can now take action on what we have found out. Right. Because we don't have mandate to do anything other than reporting. And we had nobody, last year we had nobody to report to.
Are you seeing the will from the leadership of the president?
Yeah.
The will to enable you to do more editing?
The leadership of the president is planted in other institutions. You have to understand, or we have to accept the reality, that the institution of the president has its powers distributed. Some of them are with the Commissioner General of Police. Some of them are with the Prosecutor General. Some of them are with the Commissioner General of Revenue Authority. Some of them are with the the Chief of Staff of the Army. Some of them are with me.
Right.
You see? So it is collective. The president is supported by all of us. All come together. That's why, talking about this report that I'm about to release, yesterday I didn't go to the president. I went to the Minister of Petroleum and the Minister of Cabinet Affairs. Once I have shared with the Minister of Petroleum and the Minister of Cabinet Affairs, the president is deemed to have received. You see how it is? How things are. Governance is more complicated than that. It is not that one person sitting on that one's chair. It is the collective responsibility.
In your opinion, do you think the level of corruption in the country is alarming, given the reports that you have for these years?
I have never been able to write an unqualified audit report. And to answer your question specifically, the level of corruption in this country is frightening. We do not know how this country will go forward. I have to say this because the president himself has said this. And nobody has more information than His Excellency, the president. The president says so much money has been stolen. He even wrote more than 70 letters. So it is that bad.
Is he out of hook in your report?
Yeah?
The presidency.
Yeah.
In your latest report, part of the community money went into the presidency.
Part of the community money went to the presidency. It means that the presidency needed some money, and the person, the people, the institution, the treasury, instead of getting it
Through the right channel.
from the consolidated fund, they went and got it from one that was supposed to be to the community. How was the presidency to know from the notes that they were given that this money was intended for the communities? Tell me. They didn't know. Chances are they didn't
Something
know.
must
It is
be
only
wrong
me
somewhere.
who knew, who would have out. But the recipient, and remember, I didn't, when I say the money went to the office of the president, the office of the president is a ministry just like any other.
And you even don't know who used it.
They could have used it for a very legitimate reason, by the way, like hiring an aircraft to travel, for example, or for buying electronic material. It could have been used for a legitimate purpose. I never said that it was misappropriated. I said that the money did not belong to the office of the president. It belonged to Rowing State, for example.
Right.
Yeah. It is the person who gave it to them who should be asked, why did you take the money of Upper Nile State, yeah, and gave it to another government institution and never brought it back?
You are an Auditor General. You get the facts. But I also believe on the other side of you, you are a citizen of this country.
Very much so. Otherwise, I wouldn't be qualified to be Auditor General.
What is your view about this in regards to how public money is being spent in this country? And how best can these loopholes be sealed?
I think there is a deficit of ethics to begin with. People in position of responsibility behaving in an unethical way. But that is not unique. What is most disturbing is the prevalence of impunity. If people break the law and expropriate resources and get away with it,
That's the way they want.
then it has a multiplier effect in that people will feel free to do what they want to do. And therefore, more and more of these things would happen. You know, there was a time I came from school, there was no porridge, where normally there is porridge kept. So I took the tin of the kaimot, took some and drank water and went to play. This thing was found out that Wondu is the one who alasukaimud. So I was apprehended and a grinding stone was brought that if you do it again, we are going to grind your fingers. Kanita seregu kaimut tani mara. Wallahi, we are going to grind your fingers. From that day, I have never stolen kaimut because of the consequences. Okay?
So is that what has shaped you today?
My village, generally, you are just not allowed to take something without the consent of the owner. You don't take somebody's cassava, you don't harvest somebody's maize, you don't pick somebody's oranges or fruits or break somebody's sugar cane. It is just never done in my background.
I think we did.
Much less the issue of stealing somebody's goat and somebody's cow. I never heard of it in my upbringing.
I did what you did in my childhood.
You did. You sold Kaimot also. Yeah, that's it. So the issue you see is impunity. If we punished everybody or some people, there would be a significant reduction. Remember in April when we released this report, and we just said this money was given to so and so. We mentioned the names because that is what the accounts books said. We didn't shy away. We mentioned the names of the institutions to which this money or through which this money was taken.
So all in all, you're talking
These
about
institutions and these individuals felt very bad about it. And that is good.
Right.
That is the whole point.
You have so much emphasized about personal ethics and one's integrity. Yes, we have known the alarm that your report has caused. And someone may be asking, how clean is Stephen Wondu? You are an auditor. Who audits you?
That is one problem that we have in our law. The law said that the National Audit Chamber shall be audited by an independent auditor appointed by the President on the recommendation of the Auditor General. Now, so I have now written back to Parliament to change that law. that let Parliament be the one to appoint the auditor, but not the Auditor General.
Right.
So we have a gap there in terms of the audit of the Audit Chamber. I am the very first person to complain that the provision that is in the National Audit Chamber Act was not right. It has to be changed. And I have been working on this for the last, Jesus Christ, how many years, and they haven't done it. Again, because maybe of the general situation in the country. But I would not say that we have been able to issue regular financials and therefore reports. However, this main expenditure of the National Audit Chamber are the salaries, which are not paid by us.
Right.
We don't pay the salaries. The part salaries are paid to the individuals by the Minister of Public Service, and they are determined there. Chapter 2 is about the services. Yeah, it does trickle in from time to time, but we still have a lot of areas to that. Chapter 3, since we started, we haven't bought a single motor vehicle, but we were allocated $3 million in 2012 for the construction of the National Audit Chamber head office. I am proud to say that we used that allocation in a manner, in an efficiency that nobody else has done in this country.
Right.
We have built 4,000 square meters of modern office space, and you can see where it is. All right, but other than that, we have nothing to worry about, and we have no regrets. We have no apologies. We have done well in terms of the use of the allocation that was given to us.
Let's look at some of the challenges you're facing. Are there key challenges that you think if they are addressed?
The main challenge is human resources. The main challenge is that we are not being allowed to recruit young boys and young girls and train them and bring them up.
Who doesn't allow you to do that?
The Ministry of Public Service and the Ministry of Finance. We are not independent enough to be able to take decisions on the categories and the number of personnel that we need to carry out the work of the audit office. That is our main challenge. But I am blessed to have few good people with us. Few as they are very dedicated, and when we've been able to produce things.
Right. So what keeps you going?
What keeps me going is my love for my country. Remember that I'm the former spokesman of the SPLA. Do you remember that? Very well. So that spirit is still there. I like to think so. I like to think that those who employed me are satisfied with my work. They have not seen any good reason to change me. I believe so. I mean, it must be the case. Why else? You think they have forgotten that I'm here? with all my height, they haven't forgotten. They know I'm here. So that's one. Two, when I get things like I got this morning, that the International Development Initiative wants to nominate our audit report as the audit report of the year. It keeps my blood pumping. And as I said earlier, it blows air below my wings so I can fly. There is appreciation, even in South Sudan, in Juba. People do tell me, sorry, Stephen, but go on. we are sorry for the difficulties that you are facing, but soldier on, fight on. It is no time to give up. We just got to make sure that as long as we have energy and we have life, we have to do our part to put South Sudan on its feet. Do the best in your job. I do my best in my job. He does his. I tell you, we can make a difference. Anybody, everybody can make a difference.
Anything else, Auditor General, that you think is appropriate for the citizens to know?
I like to tell government officials, heads of government agencies, that the whole concept of auditing and oversight is to build confidence and to allay fears. Audit is not intended to destroy lives of others. It is intended to improve their working environment so that they can achieve the goals and optimize the use of resources that is assigned to them. The language that we have in the textbook is that auditors are not bloodhounds. Auditors are watchdogs. That is my message to government agencies and government institutions. To the citizens of South Sudan, my message is that we have to be resilient. Things may not be very good as they are now, but there is a better future ahead of us. I was encouraged by the speech of the president in Freedom Hall the other day when he said, for you people in the security sector, there are better days ahead. I like to believe that. So for all of us, people of South Sudan, you must have hope that there is a better tomorrow. Otherwise, there is no point of living.
Wow. What an insight and an ending inspiration from Stephen Wondu, the AG, Auditor General of the National Audit Chamber. And just would love to thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity as well. Thank you so much.
I do appreciate it. Yeah. This is the open truth. Indeed, what a technical answer and what an insight from the Auditor General. Thank you. Keep watching the next edition. I am Lasuba Memo.